You are listening to Level Up Your Gaming Podcast, episode 36, Running Your First Game. Today we talk about running your first game ever. We discuss how to prepare for the night ahead and what to focus on as a first-time storyteller. We go over multiple tips to keep you from overwhelming yourself on your first night storytelling. If you'd like to participate in the discussion or leave us feedback, you can contact us at levelupyourgamingpodcast@gmail.com or find us on Facebook at facebook.com/levelupyourgaming. If you like the content and want to hear more of the show, subscribing will ensure you don't miss an episode. New episodes come out almost every Wednesday. Also, please review, tell a friend about the podcast, or share with your gaming group. Now sit back and enjoy the episode. Welcome into the Level Up Your Gaming Podcast. My name is Aaron, and still in Georgia because that's his second home, apparently. Even he had a first-time storytelling. Jared, how you doing, buddy?
Everyone. Not bad. How are you doing?
I'm doing good.
It's my second home.
Apparently. I mean, you're there about every 3 months. You're there about every 3 weeks or so. I mean, I feel like...
3 weeks. Yeah. Well, hopefully this is the last time. You know, things really got things under control here. Really helped out and built a really strong team. And it's time to let that strong team fly on their own wings, and they're already doing it. I can already see it. I'm very, very blessed because I already see them. They called me down here and they're like, "Man, we got a big event coming up, and we really need you down there just in case." And there hasn't been the case yet. You know, it's in case, and there's no case.
I see a little glimmer of hope in your eye that you won't have to go back down anytime soon.
And now they got me traveling to New Hampshire and then Boston. So they're already sending me to other places. But it's only it's funny when I come down here to Georgia for 3 weeks, but when they send me to Boston or New Hampshire or Vermont or any of the Northeast states, it's for 2 days. It's just go up there for 2 days. I'm down here in Georgia. I stay for 3 weeks. You don't have to stay in New Hampshire that long. You're not going to stay in Boston for 2 days, and then you're done. Awesome. So, I'm very proud of the team that I built down here. They're really, really fantastic people, and I hope for all of our listeners that, you guys have the opportunity one day to build, create, and manage your own team, and then you get to walk away from that team and saying holy crap, they're really doing something now. Holy crap, I built this thing. It's really a very cool feeling. But enough about work. I'm excited about this episode because Aaron gave me a little preview. We did our little pre-meeting. What are we talking about today?
Today we are going to be talking about a subject that we've given you all the tools already, but for everybody who has never run a game, what do you do when you're running your first game, or how do you even start running your first game?
Oh man, I'm excited about this topic because, and I'm going to try to swear as little as possible in case, we got a bunch of younger listeners.
Unfortunately, the explicit tag probably exempts a lot of younger listeners, but you never know these days.
You never know. Come on, we live in a world of violence on every TV show, and NYPD Blue broke the mold when they dropped the F-bomb. So now you can do it on TV. So what to do when starting up your first group? I'm going to break away a little bit from the session 0 and the setup of players, because we've already done that. We've talked about that. This is night one, starting up your game. You're inviting friends over. You're getting ready to play. Characters are created. Dice are ready to roll.
And this is your first time running a game. Again, something that I feel like all of our GMs who have been listening to us should be like, hey guys, why don't you listen to this episode here? This is going to be a really good one.
Really great one for any of you guys who feel like maybe you want to start the game. All right, so number one. And this one, because I'm just thinking of the minutes and stuff like that and how we typically spend them. Start your game earlier than you anticipate, because there is BS time. There is talk time. There's, when we do game at my house or even virtually, there's time of catching up on what have you been doing? Oh man, you still seeing that girl? Oh my God, how's work going? Work's been terrible. There's talk time because remember, role playing is in essence a hobby that can keep friends together for years and years and years, and it's that opportunity to stay together. Unlike Spartan races where somebody might be able to run them in their 30s, but the other guy just kept getting fatter. So
Somebody's still bitter about this. Okay, so
I'm not bitter because, like, dude, I would hate that. I'd be like, you want me to fucking run? Out of your goddamn mind? Well, there went the swearing thing. There you go. Two of them right there. Kaboom. We didn't even make it 5 minutes. So, kiddies, I've broken the magic for you. All right, but so you want to set up your gathering time earlier than you anticipate the start of games. So if you're like, I want to make sure I do a good 3-hour gaming session, let's just say you want to start game at 7, be done by 10 o'clock so everyone can get home or whatever. You have time constraints. Make sure you're starting game at 06 because there is at least a good hour of get together, BS, talk, enjoy each other's company before you get down to the nitty gritty. So that's kind of where you start off, the social hour. And then there's also, with the ending of social time, you kind of have a direction of hey, it's time to break up social, and it's time to go to into the game. My brother once went to a different gamer's house, and that person had a very peculiar, a little too engaged by Dungeons and Dragons, where he asked everyone to prick their finger and drop blood onto a piece of paper. That was his way of saying we are stepping out of this world and into another world.
You don't have to do that.
You don't have to do that. You don't know. No, because that's just not safe. That's not, and you know what? Safe is fun.
Yes.
Safety is fun.
But generally how we do it, and how I would recommend you do that to transition there is typically because we use music in all of our games and we've been incorporating music for a long time. We put on the background music. That's the dinner bell at a wedding. That's to give you an example of it. That's everyone, places. We're going to start serving you the game.
Places. Heck, I've even done it so informal if you don't have music or you're not using music or you don't have access to music or whatever reason. But then again, I will please tell you, like, try to find a way for that music. Music is so cool. Are you ready? Are you ready? Ready? Everyone's ready? Okay, we're ready. We're going to start. All right, here we go. Just that check-in of, hey, we're ending the talking about Jared's trip to Georgia. We're ending Aaron's talk about how he can bench now over, like, I don't know, 1 million pounds. You can. Like, you work out all the freaking time. We're done talking about what horrific weapon of science Brian has made over the last month that he can't tell us about. Actually,
classified.
It's classified. Sorry. This is why we always blamed him. Like, if we ever got in trouble, like, he's the smart one. He's the brains of the operation. Blame him.
But no, you're right. You want to after you socialize, you want to make sure everyone knows now we're starting. Okay, so whether that's, hey, all right, guys, let's wrap this up. Let's get starting. Go to the bathroom, get your last drinks, whatever you need to do. We're gonna start here in 2 minutes.
Aaron brings up a good point. The bathroom is key. Bathroom and drinks are key because the last thing you want to be is like, it begins on a stormy night. I gotta go pee. Fuck. Get the bathroom. It's critical. It's key.
Yeah, you don't want in the middle of your gathering point there because you're a new GM, you're brand new to the whole thing. You don't want, as you're setting up the story, somebody go, I gotta go walk away and go to the bathroom real quick. I mean, emergencies happen. We're older people. We're getting older now. Things happen, but at the same time, you want people to engage with the start of the movie. Okay.
Yeah, the opening scene is pretty crucial. So make sure the bathrooms are done, make sure the drinks are done. And it's funny because I just thought of this and actually have to go back in time, preparing the area, preparing your battlefield. So where are you going to game? Where do you have space for the people? Okay. Some of you might be starting off like, hey, it's going to be the bedroom of my apartment, because I promised my roommate I would give him the living room to watch his football game. So we're just going to do it in the bedroom of my apartment. That's fine. That's your battlefield. Do you have chairs? Do you have someplace comfortable for people to sit? You know, because here's the thing: you should know the amount of players you're going to have. Because you've had a session 0, you've all sat around and talked about your players, you've done all that thing. Okay, so Jim is going to sit there. I got 4 people, I got 4 chairs, and a bed, and I'm going to sit on the bed. Or 2 of them are going to sit on the bed. Just plan your battlefield. Where are people going to sit? I mean, like, fortunately, I have a living room and a gigantic freaking sofa that I hate.
Seating's not an issue for you.
I hate that sofa,
but just make sure people have places to one, for you to put your battle board, to put down your battle mat, whatever you're going to end up using. If you're going to use the assistance of a computer and displaying and projecting things, make sure that you have a computer set up and ready to go. Don't be trying to set this up last minute.
Don't. I mean, take a good. So if game's starting at 6, start putting your area together at like 4:30, or 4 o'clock or 5 o'clock. Try give yourself some time.
Be good and ready to go before things get underway. But once you have that area and stuff planned out, you've given people the cue that we're going to start the game. That's when you're going to run your gathering. And I know we're not going to go back into the gathering. We already did that episode 1. Listen to episode 1. Learn how to kind of formulate your gathering here. But more to the story that I think you need to kind of be telling here, because if you take it back and you go into planning your game, the type of story that you probably want to tell here, don't go in saying this will only be good or successful if I tell this massively long chronicle.
Hell no.
No, go in and say, I don't care how long it takes to finish my story. I only care about executing the story from night to night. And the only thing that you should really be concerned about is, did I gather the people? Do they understand their objectives for this first night? And then let your players play, okay? And as your players, what you're going to notice, that I noticed the first time that I really started storytelling, is you're going to be sitting there in silence a lot of times as your players banter back and forth about stuff, okay? and you're just gonna be kind of like waiting for them to do things. And again, listen to our controlling your players episode. Know how you're going to make the table flow as well. So when they do their banter, know when you bring it in. Okay, so what do you want to do next? Make sure that they are pointed to the direction that you sort of want them to go, or are very clear on the objectives that you want them to get through. And if this is your first time telling a story, don't be afraid to slip up and make mistakes. Okay?
The one thing that if this is your first game, and I think there are a lot of storytellers, especially if you're listening to our podcast and you're like, yes, I do want to create that masterpiece. Mind you, we created masterpieces through decades of error. Decades. It did not mean during those decades of errors that we didn't have a whole lot of fun doing it. You know what I mean? It's just we've gotten to the point of where we can offer advice to starting storytellers on how to avoid decades of errors and maybe turn that into years of errors.
Yeah, you're still going to make mistakes as a new storyteller.
Oh, horrible mistakes.
And really what I would urge anyone to do, especially if you are storytelling for a group. So let's say you are typically a player in the group and you're like, hey guys, I want to run a story. Okay? I would try, and I wouldn't say completely mimic the existing GM, but I would look at the things that you think he does very well, he or she does very well, and try and emulate some of those ideas. Pick a couple, okay? Just pick a couple to be able to kind of get that first game off the ground, and then you're just trying to take the plane up and land the plane by yourself at the end of the day. Okay.
There you go. I mean, that's perfect. That's what you're trying to do. You're going to take the plane up. You're going to bring it back down. That's the goal. You're not trying to create. And I've seen so many people in the past fall into that pitfall of like, every game must be a masterpiece. Don't. No, it's impossible. It is impossible. Even in my what I consider flagship games, I call some of my games my flagship games. They were riddled with errors and problems and plot holes and all sorts of things. So be ready for that. Set the expectation of, just as Aaron said, I'm going to take the plane up, I'm going to bring it down safely, and then worry about, I don't know, flipping around the plane and doing tumbles and dive bombs and stuff like that.
Yeah, again, the whole point to your first game is just to be able to one, start it, and two, end it, and make sure that through the time that you do it, the players have fun. And I mean, like, that is your ultimate goal for the game. It is not to, I wouldn't even try to be like, I want to do some super heavy hidden meaning behind things, especially if you're not confident storytelling, if you've never done it, if your storyteller at your table has been doing this for 15 years for you guys, a la Jared. Okay. And some people kind of throw in some one shots here and there to give Jared a little bit of a break, but you are not going to be what that storyteller is night one. Okay.
Nope.
You will become closer to what that storyteller is in terms of experience as time goes on. If you are brand new to the hobby, be a little familiar with the rules. But otherwise, if you've been playing for a long time, you probably know most of the rules by now. And so you are just as qualified to be a GM as that player. And again, it's a lot of it's improvisation and just thinking on your feet as time goes on. But at some point, somebody's got to take, it's just like flight lessons. You got to take the plane up at some point. You got to bring it back down. And your co-pilot at that point, the person who's experienced, is playing in your game, okay? And unless they're a complete jerk, okay, which they shouldn't be, but if they're a complete jerk, they'll ruin your game. If they're nice, they're like, well, this is awesome, somebody else is telling a story, they will be very kind to you through kind of the things that you stumble through. The rest of your players might be jerks because they're players. They don't really understand why they're being jerks because they're jerks to your other GM anyways. But your one GM will be nice and kind to you because he understands what you are trying to do and what you're trying to go through.
A good GM is almost going to fall asleep in your plane. Why? Because he is so content to just be sitting in the plane rather than flying the plane. He doesn't have to worry about the controls, but he's in the sky. Yeah, dang, that a lot of good points there. One of the other things that you want to look at is when on that first night, I feel like a lot of storytellers that they worry about, what are my players going to do? Conflict is key. All of you, please remember that I recommend at least, once a session, once every other session, there's got to be some sort of conflict, whether that be a social joust or a real joust.
Combat is easy, and it eats time up. Okay.
Oh my God, we created. I did a game that literally lasted 3 sessions. All it was one gigantic firefight between them and a couple of meth-making rednecks. It was 3 nights. But then again, White Wolf offers a level of lethality that just half of your time is spent in cover waiting for them to reload. Because you don't want to be on the receiving end of a single bullet.
I joined a D&D campaign recently, okay, with somebody who's run stories before in the past, but the entire campaign is more or less a dungeon crawl, which, again, that's a perfectly acceptable story for a brand new GM. You are giving the motivation to go into the dungeon. You're walking them through the dungeon. Most of it's combat, Okay, you've assigned and placed your traps. And at the end of it, you can do something after they get the treasure or after they defeat the villain at the end of the dungeon to come out and have some more story and exposition to be put out there. That is a successful game. Again, you know, and that dungeon, just to kind of give you an example, same point to Jared, we run our game for about 4 hours a session. Okay, we were running 3 hours a session on this game. It took us 3 nights to complete that dungeon. 3 nights. Okay, you can get a lot of time out of it, especially when you end up in combat. Combat takes a long time, but a lot of what people typically play for is sort of the combat aspect of role-playing games. I would say a lot of players tend to be motivated towards combat, and
Very.
I would
and there's
say
nothing wrong with that.
yeah, there's nothing wrong with that. And so again, doing that gives you the confidence to be able to tell a bigger, better story as time goes on. Don't try to make your magnum opus, okay, night one. It's not going to happen.
Nope.
Sorry, I shouldn't say it's not going to happen. You might strike gold, okay, and you might be a hidden gem. You might be the Pele of
the Matt Mercer. Like you find out night one, you are Matt Mercer.
You are Matt Mercer. You are better than the GM that has been GMing for you for 15 years. You are a natural. You are a savant. Okay, but assume that maybe you aren't that person, and instead you're just trying to get your feet under you to be able to make sure that one, everybody walks through there, comes out and has fun, and then two, you can start then adding story elements. Build upon the success of a good game that lasts 3 sessions and take those players and now say, I'm going to tell another game. Okay, it's still part of the same chronicle, theoretically. Still the same characters. You still know each other. You still all have that reason for working with one another. But then take the chronicle and stretch it. Now I'm going to give you another dungeon, but I'm also going to give you more flavor on both sides of the dungeon there. Okay? Expand your game incrementally. It's walking it up piece by piece by piece. In that first game, though, just try to do a couple of things well.
Yep. Aim for high points. Just a single combat that is really well done can make a night. You know what I mean? Go back to our podcast. I think we had one about how to make combat really epic with playing with time. It slows down and you hear the clang and using sensory to increase the combat. Because trust me, if you're just doing, I roll, I didn't hit his AR. Next player, tell me how I missed. Tell me whether or not he scratched his breastplate.
Give life to the combat. Otherwise, combat just becomes rolling dice. Okay.
Yeah, just roll dice.
When you cleave someone and you finally kill the spider, okay, let the player describe how they killed the spider. Okay, because they finished it off.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
There's a lot of good homebrew rules that can work. I mean, in the D&D game I'm playing right now, when they're at half HP or less, they become bloodied. So as they get closer to death, you can see them becoming more and more bloodied. So it gives you that visual. It gives you that visual kind of sense of what you're doing and how far you're going. And when they miss, make the miss epic. Okay, it was a narrow miss. You just grazed their hairs. Or when they miss you, it was a narrow miss. You want to try to give them a sense of danger and that sense of excitement when you're in the combat there. Again, you can have them talk to different NPCs, have them solve some puzzles. You can throw in a lot of different elements, but just try to make sure that they're simplistic enough and easy enough for you to be able to manage everything within the story on your first game and first night.
Oh, absolutely. And a little bit of social, a little bit of mental, a little bit of physical. Make sure you got your spotlights. Even for your first game, if you don't have spotlights and it's more just a general, go for it. Because really what it is getting your feet in the water, letting them get their feet in the water, letting them build the bonds of characters. That's huge. And that's why I don't necessarily, it's funny because I'm a very story-centric person. I really like to build very elaborate, very emotional stories. And some people might be like, oh, he's too good for dungeons. No, dungeon crawls are pretty cool in the fact that it is a shared bond between players into a shared experience that really, like, oh man, do you remember our first dungeon together 5 years ago? Oh man, yeah, that was a harsh one with the gleaming eye of Orlaf. It builds a bond, and it's something there that they just can't escape. That's the great thing about dungeons is you can't be like, F it, I'm going home. You can't. Oh, you're gonna get through the razor blade trap by yourself? That's right, I can't. So I guess I'm staying with the party. So I have nothing against dungeon crawls, and I have nothing against large combats. Like I said to everyone, one of my first stories in our detective series was a 3-game firefight. So, with that first night, make sure you're comfortable with the rules. And if you mess up the rules, or if you have some rules lawyering going on, one, if you've got, for example, if you've got your storyteller who's like, that's not how it works. That's not how it works at all.
Your storyteller's being a jerk if he does that to you, by the way, and you're
he's
brand
being
new.
a complete freaking jerk. You can tell him, calm down there, Opus. This is my table. It works this way here. Rules lawyering, you don't want to really welcome it. I don't like rules lawyering at my table because I cheat. That flat out, I freaking cheat at my table.
The art of being a good GM is to cheat.
It's to cheat. Because half the time, like, I cannot tell people how many times that I have killed my players, but did not tell them. Why? Because it did nothing to serve my story. So what did I do? I dialed down the damage just enough to, cripple them. So they get to be lunging, dragging this leg around as they continue to fight on their orcish hordes. Why? Because that's a hell of a story. Nothing cool about, he got an arrow through the head and then he fell dead. Ain't nothing cool about that. That ain't a cool story that you tell other people. The cool story that you tell other people is I took an arrow to the knee and continued killing orcs. Because there's that meme, like I was a great this, and then I took an arrow to the knee.
Yeah, from Skyrim. Yeah.
I took an arrow to the knee and I continued killing orcs.
And again,
all day.
You get to make that choice about whether or not you're going to be so lethal that you're going to kill players in your game night one. Generally, even in like the first game and the first couple of sessions, I try to avoid it because I feel like it's very anticlimactic if right at the start of the game you murder someone.
Yeah,
I feel like it leaves a sour taste in players' mouths, especially if they put any sort of effort into making the character. It's kind of a pain in the butt if night one you murk someone. So
totes. It's a pretty bad ending to it. So night one, avoid clipping your characters, and that's why I avoid rules lawyering, because I'm making rolls to further the story, and further my the fun of my players. That's how a rule should be interpreted. There are rules out there that you can't get around, like in White Wolf you have botching, and D&D you have botching. You roll a 1, shit goes downhill sometimes.
Critical failure.
Critical failures happen. With night one, just focus definitely on avoiding rules lawyering, because you're establishing that this is your table. You're going to have rules that don't agree with your old storyteller. You might say surprise actions always has, and I'm just throwing words out here that I know from D&D, surprise actions always leave the player flat-footed, and thus at a negative difficulty. Or you might be like, surprise actions don't just leave you flat-footed. You get hit because you didn't see it coming, or whatever. This is your table. It's not the old storyteller's table. It's your table. And what you are doing is you are focusing on your players and your story and establishing those. So cheat. Don't let your players know that you're cheating. Have some sort of block for your rolls. I never, ever, ever, ever roll in front of my players. I put my hand over it when we rolled in person. I just made sure there was stuff to block my roll.
Cheating is never a bad is never a bad option for you as the storyteller. Again, if you quick gen a bunch of characters and you got people playing fast and loose, feel free to clip them. But if they're playing cautious,
Ooh, excuse me,
and somebody accidentally steps on a trap that would kill them, don't.
Maybe that trap just doesn't have to be.
Maybe that trap doesn't have to be there. Maybe that trap didn't do as much damage as you rolled. Okay, because you don't want to kill your player right there. Your player wasn't looking out for traps. He wasn't thinking about them right then and there.
Rule number 346: avoid character death on first game.
Yes, I mean it's sort of a general rule. We put that in the should nots episode, and I'm going to reiterate it here, especially for new players. It doesn't serve a lot of purpose to kill a player on the first night, and if you made them put any sort of effort into thinking about how their player's backstory and stuff works together, nothing is more disappointing than to have an unsatisfying death. You took a critical roll and the monster does 27 damage to you on the first night, and just your character just doesn't have any the HP pool to take that sort of damage, and it just dies. Okay,
I got killed by a kobold with a spear.
I mean it's just it's just not satisfying, and you can work around those things. And again, make your choice, because if the player's like I see a room full of goblins, I run into the middle of it and start swinging my sword around, maybe you want to kill that guy then. That was a bad choice.
I'm going to leave it up to you, because that person who runs in there and starts swinging his sword around, he's bringing the action. They were going to fight goblins anyway, but remember your rules. Does it increase the fun of my table? Does it further the story? That's the thing. Comes down to two golden rules with me. If it increases the story of hey guys, I'm playing. The set was, it's high fantasy, but I like the Dark Ages and the lethality of the Dark Ages. Yeah. If someone gets out of pocket and runs into a room full of goblins, that the plan was that they would shut and lock that door, but instead they ran in.
It depends. You usually I use it as a consequence. You get to make your own choice there, but I typically frown upon murking players on night one. So
I tend to frown upon murking players night one. I felt a need to repeat you word for word, but it's true. It's true. I tend to avoid it. I think it's smart to avoid it. But with your first night, take them through. Make sure that your story is simple enough to follow. If you have been planning this for 4 weeks and you've got such a huge story prepared that it fills 7 notebooks, be wary of that. Your goal is, just like Aaron said, bring that plane up, bring that plane down. If you're okay, I'm going to have plot twist here, execute AB 43 and Blue 42, hike, you're probably going to get caught up, and it's going to be bad. But that brings me to my next point. Understand that, here's the thing: your first night, your blood is going to be, you're going to be anxious. Anxiety is a natural part of the process. Oh man, did I screw up this roll? Oh man, did I screw up that call? Oh man, did I do this? Let it go. Let it go. I don't know the rest of the song, but I don't know. Remain calm. Remain calm during the process, okay? Because it's just Michael Jordan every once in a while tripped. And right now you're a rookie. You're not Michael Jordan. So you're going to trip. Don't beat yourself up over it. Don't get anxious about it. Just keep moving forward. I tripped. Think of this like hiking, not like a race. Okay? In hiking, I trip, I get up, and I continue on the path, right? I maybe look around to make sure nobody was watching or videotaping my trip, but I keep walking. If you think it's a race and you trip and all of a sudden the runners pass you, now you've already lost the race. You've defeated yourself in your mind.
Yeah, don't get
You're
caught up on little details and things that
don't.
make you because you are going to make mistakes. You're going to skip something that's important that the players needed to know or something. There's always a way to get them that information. Okay, the simplest way to get you that information is if I missed it and I realized I missed it right there. It's a little, it's not smooth, but you could be like, oh yeah, I forgot. They also mentioned this.
Oh yeah, I
Okay,
forgot they also mentioned this. As you guys are walking out, the person runs after you and goes, "Oh, I forgot to tell you about the acid trap. The warp core is gonna explode."
you
You
will
know,
die if you jump into the pit of despair. I mean, like,
exactly. There's nothing wrong. It's not very graceful to do the "oh, they forgot to tell you." You can always do the "they run after you" because they remember. They don't. If they're telling you ways not to die or ways to get through the maze, they're not going to withhold the critical information. They're going to go, "Oh crap!" And because I've done it, my wife starts walking out to her car for work, and I'm like, "You forgot your peanut butter sandwich." And then I'm, running halfway down the street chasing her car. But it happens. Don't stress the little things. Don't do that. Just dust yourself up, walk forward, and keep moving. And when it comes to the end of the night, don't be too harsh of a critic of yourself. So one, because you have to focus on self-care a little bit, because trust me, I know at the end of the night, you can walk away from that night and go, oh my God, what did I do? I forgot this plot line. I forgot this. I forgot that. I'm a terrible storyteller. It can get into your head, and then you're just limiting yourself on your next session because you built up all this anxiety from the ending of the first session. Constructive criticism is great for your first night. Hey, how did I do? That's if you've got good friends, even if you did poorly, they're going to lie to your face. You did great. Killed my character, but you did wonderful. Good friends are going to wait till night 2 to start smashing your dreams. But don't let self-evaluation of your game get in the way of your confidence and undermine your ability to try again. I feel that it can really mess you up when you're like, oh my God, I did so terribly. Like, I should never do this again. And then you follow with that, and it gets so bad. No, I took for a walk. I tripped here. I tripped there. You know what? Forget the tripping. I got to the end of the walk. I took the plane up. There was a lot of turbulence.
You might not even land it that first night. The first night the plane might still be in the air. So again, you might have this multi-chronicle thing or not multi-night thing where you're still in the dungeon. You still have to land the plane. If you tripped and you tripped, think about how you're going to handle. Listen to Planning V2. Okay, Planning V2 is about the maintenance of the game. Think about how you're going to handle the plot holes that you have. Okay, is there a way that you can fill in some of those gaps? Is there a way that you can rectify some of the trips? Think about it.
Find solutions. Don't focus on mistakes. Find solutions for those mistakes. We are a results-oriented organization. Sorry, that's just like one of my favorite quotes. But go back to maintenance period. Maintenance period will guide you into finding solutions for problems that you had in that first game. And it's okay to have problems in your first game. Everyone does. There's not a single, and for the love of God, I know I harp on this every time, and I feel really bad if you listen to our podcast. Like, I feel terrible. You are not Matt Mercer, okay? Do not compare yourself to the storyteller who's been doing it for 15 years and evaluate yourself based on how they did a story. And don't watch is it a Critical Role?
It's Critical Role.
Yeah, and go, man, I was not half as good as Matt Mercer. I'm not half as good as Matt Mercer. But that SOB also gets paid to do that. That's his job. I mean, shit, if they paid me full-time to do storytelling, trust me, I'd be making works of gold. All right? There'd be music that no one's heard in 4,000 years just to replicate authenticity of the period. but don't compare yourself to the storyteller before. Don't compare yourself to Matt Mercer. Although, one thing, can I just say this in case Matt Mercer actually listens to our podcast? Matt Mercer, you have done a wonderful thing in expanding role playing. You really have. Just great job there. But God dang, I really wish I had your pay. There we go. I'm jealous of him. I'm jealous of him because I wish I had his job. What's my job? I storytell. Awesome. Oh my God. So look at those points and don't wrap yourself up evaluating yourself based on your past, based on the past storyteller. Evaluate yourself based on your first night and with understanding and with compassion to yourself. It was my first night. I did horrible. It was terrible. Okay, let's see what we can do about making night two a little bit better, about leveling up our gaming.
Exactly. I've got one more point. I know that we're running a little bit longer than we typically do here.
Well,
but
this is an exciting episode. It's a fun episode.
It is. It's really just about the end of your first night there as you kind of hit the end of it. So something that you should be aware of as a first-time storyteller, keep an eye on your clock, okay? Know that if you're going to game for 3 hours, you're going to finish at 10. Think about when you're going to stop that first night. Okay, it's very important that you think about that because you may want to finish a combat. Okay, so maybe see if the players can stretch another 15 minutes to finish up a combat. You may not want to go into the next part because you're going to go into a combat. You typically want to leave it at a place that the players aren't doing a lot of stuff, so you can start it almost from the beginning there again. It's kind of like an ebb and a flow. You can't see me moving my hand around here, but essentially just kind of think about that place that when you finally get to the end of your first night, you do want to stop the play for the night because you're not going to want to get engaged with something and then have to remember all the stuff that was going on in that very moment.
Well said, sir. Well said.
But do you have any other points you want to make on this, Jared?
No, I don't have a poetic ending for this one. I was just too excited about talking about this and hoping that somebody's going to do their first night and be like, aha, here's my battle plan, and I'll have a better first night. So I've got nothing poetic at the moment. Wait, no, nothing poetic.
Okay. Well, anyways, and also, if Matt Mercer, if you are listening to this podcast, we do appreciate it. So,
give us a shameless plug, you bastard.
So
that would be hilarious. I just want to do a shameless plug for Level Up Your Gaming podcast. I'd be like, I would pee myself. I would quite literally pee myself.
We're going to wrap it up there for today. If you want to give us feedback, you want to ask us questions about running your first game, or you want to give us episode suggestions, levelupyourgamingpodcast@gmail.com. Otherwise, follow us, like us on Facebook, facebook.com/levelupyourgaming. Please subscribe, review, tell a friend, tell Matt Mercer to listen to the podcast. And, for Jared, I'm Aaron. Have a good week, guys.
Have a great week, everyone.